Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Fandom Zone podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in the Fandom Zone, ready to talk more of The Boys Season 2 with my wonderful co-host and fellow Drunk Cinema podcast aficionado, DJ Nick. How you doing, Nick? What's up?
Hey, Charles. Doing well. Of course, the situation is still as it stands when it comes to Italy, but, gladly there are things that keep us happy, just like, Drunk Cinema, which I listened to and really enjoyed. And all I can say is, congrats on this new venture. I know I spoiled the ending before we got to the beginning, before we even started this podcast, but wanted to congratulate you and Zan on this new podcast, this new venture.
Yeah, well, thank you, Nick. We definitely appreciate it. Definitely appreciate your support and your help with our intro. But we'll talk more about that at the end of the podcast because, hey, right now we got to talk The Boys, right? That's more important right now. So we got priorities here. So here at episode 195, we're going to be talking We Gotta Go Now, like from the song Louie Louie by the Kingsmen, where it goes, we gotta go now. That's all.
Yep.
Boom. And then you close the song. So, yeah, this was the fifth episode of The Boys Season 2, aired on September 18th, 2020, not too long ago, a couple of months ago, written by Ellie Monahan, who wrote the Season 1 episode, The Self-Preservation Society, and this was directed by Baton Silva, who's new to the show, not as familiar with Baton's work, but I thought this episode was done rather well. A good, solid episode for the boys, and I'm definitely looking forward to getting your thoughts on this as we both try to survive the coronavirus lockdowns, such as they are here in the United States, but primarily, obviously, in Italy, where you're at.
I did want to make one brief explanation, because the word lockdown can be applied here, because I've actually used it, but just to give folks an explanation of what is going on in Italy. You guys, obviously, in the US have states, we have regions.
Right.
And all the regions in Italy have been classified, have been given a color code. They've been color coded, which go from yellow to red. And basically, according to the colors, obviously, there are more restrictions. Red regions, unfortunately, like mine, which is Lombardy, is now a red region, which means it is as if it were a lockdown, as in you can't leave your region. But there are other regions that are orange, for example, they're freer. So I just wanted to clarify that for folks. It's not a national lockdown, but it's regionally restricted according to how bad the situation is according to the regions.
Interesting. Okay, well, that's pretty much similar to a lot of what's going on here in the United States, where, as you said, we have various states that some are doing worse than others, some are on more lockdown than others. So I'm sure you have a lot of neighboring regions where people are probably trying to just sneak over there and enjoy themselves, right?
You know what? Yes. Luckily, I say luckily in the sense that we don't have Thanksgiving going on. So folks aren't worried about what am I going to do for Thanksgiving. Yeah. We do have Christmas around the corner, which is not that far away, but they're hoping to free stuff up a little bit, at least for the holidays, at least for Christmas, Hanukkah, and what have you.
Well, my best wishes to you, both you and your country.
Thank you. The same goes to the U.S., of course.
And, obviously we need to beat this. We need to get it under control. I mean, obviously, until we get the vaccine and, that becomes, spread across the globe, obviously we're not going to be able to get it under control effectively. So it's up to people to do the right thing, to take care of themselves, to be smart.
Agreed.
And
the powers that be to actually be powers that be.
Exactly. And we need effective leadership certainly in the state of Ohio, where I'm at right now, as I've kind of grumbled about on Twitter, if you follow me on Twitter. I don't want to get too deep in the woods on this, but
No.
because, hey, we got to talk the boys, right? But I did want to address it because it's something that's very important right now, especially with us, as now that, here in the United States, we're in fall, colder weather, people are gathering more indoors. And
also Thanksgiving around the corner.
Thanksgiving around the corner, Christmas just in a month, New Year's. It's going to be a very difficult period. And right now we have hospitals that are barely able to treat their patients, struggling for open beds. So we need people to do the right thing and be smart about this.
Amen, yeah.
So I will hop off my soapbox, but everybody, please be smart because we want you safe. We treasure our listeners here on the Phantom Zone. Believe it or not, we want to keep you around to keep listening.
Yes.
So this is in our interest too, right? Not just your own health, which is great, and your family's health, because that's important. But, hey, we'll be selfish and say, hey, we want you around to keep listening to the Phantom Zone. So.
Yes, can't just be Charles and myself listening to these episodes.
Exactly. This needs to be a win-win here, people.
Amen.
All right. Just trying to lighten things up after that rather serious moment. All right.
Yes.
So The Boys Season 2, we got to go now. Nick, what are your thoughts on this episode? This is, as we kind of hit the halfway point in the season, because this is only a 10-episode season, where do you see things going at this point?
Well, as David Proctor eloquently said, it's hard to break up. Hey, exactly. Big shout out to our great supporter, David Proctor. Where he said it's hard to break up a story into episodes when you know where the story goes. And of course, here we are feigning ignorance that we don't know where the story will go, for the benefit, of course, of our listeners. But what I thought was, what we had kind of predicted in the previous episode is coming to pass. I.e., we're getting alliances formed, and what alliances, I will say, very intimate alliances.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Talk about getting in bed with the enemy.
Yeah, I see what you did
exactly. There. And then, of course, we see more of, we get to see a little bit more of Butcher's past, which is, as we say, the people in his immediate circle outside of the boys, which is nice. A little brief bit of Butcher family, if you will, which is nice. And of course, the furthering of the relationship between Huey and Butcher, which was nice. I think a few things that had not been said came out, and all in all, it's just is the path is getting darker and darker as we progress, because as I said, we see what is happening around us, and it's like, how are we going to get out of this situation? It's like the darkness is looming here, Charles, and I'm saying to myself, how are they going to get out of this mess?
Well, especially at the end, and obviously we have to talk about this.
Oh, yes.
Where the most dangerous power couple alive, a literal power couple, is formed at the end of this episode, and it can't spell good things for the Boys TV show, because these two very powerful people hooking up. And as we know, Stormfront being of a somewhat Nazi-esque background, to put it mildly, that can't be good. Especially and with Homelander and his
proclivity?
No, I would say is more of his descent into madness. And just his ego becoming just this incredibly corrupt force and succumbing to that corruption, that he's obviously just this gigantic nuclear bomb waiting to go off on this show at any moment.
Very true, and all done to the tune of "Dream On" by Aerosmith. And I thought to myself, that is rather ironic. I would have actually put a Nightmare to Remember by Dream Theater, which is a song that I absolutely love, or Nightmare by Avenged Sevenfold, which is another song that I absolutely love as well.
Or you could also throw in Alice Cooper's "Welcome to My Nightmare."
Welcome to My Nightmare. That would have been exactly even better because it's all old school and stuff.
Right.
That's actually a great album. You've just named one of my favorite Cooper albums. So
and there you go. One of those things that pops out. You know how it is. But I'm glad I could name check that for you. Yeah, I enjoyed the Aerosmith shout out, because of all the Aerosmith songs, that's actually my favorite of their songs.
Really?
Yeah, it is, because I love the way it's presented. It's so powerful. And And it was them in their earliest, I think that was off of their first album, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe that was Toys in the Attic.
Was it? Okay.
I believe it was.
Okay. I'm not sure, but it was definitely early in their career.
Yeah, because you can even hear that Steven Tyler had not come into his own yet.
No.
It's a very raw Steven Tyler at that point.
Yeah, and he just doesn't have that shredded voice that we've come to know.
And they weren't as
90s
bluesy as they then got.
Yeah, exactly. So it's much more Led Zeppelin-esque.
Yeah.
Aerosmith.
Because if then you compare it, to go on a brief tangent, to things like Crazy or songs like that.
The power pop ballads.
That's right, those power ballads from the time. Yeah. It's crazy to think that they did such almost a desperate song, almost a tragic song, compared to stuff like Amazing, Crazy, Crying, etc., which were obviously so bombastic. Yeah. This is very raw.
Something you would find in a Michael Bay film, like Armageddon.
True, yes.
Yeah. All right. Getting back to the boys, let's see here. We have some trivia I thought we could run down. Mm-hmm. The We Gotta Go title, if you're curious, once again comes from a boys' comic book series storyline.
Uh-huh.
But again, something completely unrelated to what's in this episode.
Okay. So you wonder how they went selecting these things, like, oh, I like that title. Let's put it in here. It's got nothing to do with the story, but let's put it in
Exactly. I think that's what they did. I think they because what I'm holding up right here now, for those who can't hear in podcast land, or see in podcast land.
There it is.
This is a copy of the Boys Volume 4 trade paperback called We Gotta Go Now.
Here it is.
And
nice.
What I love about this cover is it's a parody by Derek Robertson of the National Lampoon's Animal House movie poster.
That's exactly what it goes like. Is that Animal House? Yeah.
Yeah. It's a direct homage to that. Only it's like instead of like the members of Delta Tau Chi.
Yeah.
In National Lampoon's Animal House, it's kind of like a superhero version of that. Mm-hmm. Featuring the characters, the G-Men, which feature in the We Gotta Go Now storyline from the comic book series. So, so in that storyline, for anybody wondering, if you ever want to check it out, I know, Nick, you've got your comic books. Did you get your comic books yet?
You know what? My porter rang me today saying, it's arrived. And you know what? I said, okay, I'll go get it. I put it off because I had work to do, and I'm going to have to go to the porter's office tomorrow.
All right. Well, that's all right. You got something to look forward to tomorrow then.
Exactly.
All right. See, I got my Sandman Deluxe edition hardcover today, and you got your boys tomorrow. So we're both happy.
That's right.
All right. So in this storyline, following the death, the very public suicide of an original G-Men team member, Silver Kincaid, the boys are sent to investigate the G-Men, which right away should kind of give you the indication that, hey, this is a parody of Marvel's X-Men. Yeah. G-Men, X-Men, get it? And the G-Men are what's described as Vought Americans' most profitable team of outcasts.
Uh-huh.
Hey, kind of like Marvel's most profitable team of outcasts,
yeah.
Right? So in this storyline, it's revealed through the boys' investigation that most, if not all, the G-Men aren't, in fact, quote, orphans and outcasts, but were actually, and this is where things take a Garth Ennis really dark turn, that they were abducted as children, injected with Compound V in order to manifest their powers, and it was revealed that the G-Men's founder, a guy named John Goldolkin, and other members of the G-Men sexually abused their young recruits.
Wowie.
So, yes. So Garth Ennis decided, hey, let me take Marvel's X-Men and do a child abuse spin on that. A child porn thing.
Wow. Okay. Well, that explains a lot of the lyrics in When It Comes to My Chemical Romance as well.
Yeah, it does. So, Nick, you got that to look forward to in your reading coming
up.
Joy! Stay tuned, right?
Over the holiday period, read about abused people. Lovely.
But I can attest, without spoiling too much, that the boys give them what for. So,
okay.
So they get what's coming to them.
There is a comeuppance then.
There is a comeuppance, exactly.
Okay.
as a certain Zan Sprouse might say. Yes.
Exactly. Well, you know what, Charles? You've often told the listeners that the comics are even more brutal than what they get on the screen.
They are.
And I think this is maybe just a small example of what you get when you read the boys' comics.
Yes. So if you enjoy the TV show and you're curious about the comics, be warned, if at all possible, if you kind of consider the boys to be a bit harsh at times, the comic is even worse.
Which often seems to be the case.
Exactly. So you might want to even, like, every time that you're reading the comic book, make sure that you have a content warning, preferably read by a certain DJ Nick, handy, to let you know that it's for mature readers. So.
But yeah, the way you talk about it sounds like the Kick-Ass movies, which apparently I've read the comics. The comics are way more brutal than the movies.
They are, because Mark Millar, the guy, the writer behind Kick-Ass, the co-creator along with John Romita Jr. of Kick-Ass, he and Garth Ennis kind of have that same sensibility. Mark is English, and Garth Ennis is Irish.
Well, you know what? Both from the UK, so they kind of bring that that kind of grit from the UK, which is what a lot of British, shall we say, or writers from the United Kingdom brought to comics, is that brutality, I think, compared to what, maybe American writers might have done. They've done things too, but it seems like the English invasion did a lot when it came to comics.
Yeah, and Kingsman: The Secret Service was also by Mark Millar. So if you kind of see something there as well, that's probably why. Yeah.
And that's why I enjoy both Kick-Ass and Kingsman.
There you go. Yeah. All right. Well, I enjoy Kingsman as well. So, all right. And let's see. Another bit of trivia. Ellie Monahan, who wrote this episode, as I mentioned, is the real-life daughter of Katie Couric, the American celebrity interviewer, former host of CBS's World News Tonight, and also former co-host on the Today Show here in the United States. So Ellie Monahan is her daughter, and it's interesting because, hey, Katie Couric appears in this episode.
Nice little, it dovetails very well with that.
Right. You got to wonder if Ellie just picked up the phone and said, Mom, would you be interested in doing a cameo on The Boys? What's The Boys? Well, just trust me, okay? I'm writing this episode.
You just have to play yourself.
Yeah. So once again, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yes, indeed. It's interesting how many actually real-life TV show hosts they actually got in this, because we had Menounos in the previous one. We get
Maria Menounos, yeah. And this time we also get Nancy O'Dell, who I believe was on the Access Hollywood show here in the United States. Another entertainment news reporter.
Yeah. And MSNBC got a shout out on this episode. Like, please bring in Rachel Maddow at some point.
Yeah. Well, apparently she's too busy being Vesper Fairchild on Batwoman, I guess. So that's where you have to find her. She's on a different superhero show.
Yes.
So one last bit of trivia, then we'll get into our topics. If you're wondering about the sentence that was in Russian, that was spoken by the Russian mobsters in this episode, where they're kind of dismissive of Kimiko when she shows up, they say the line in Russian, obviously. She's just a girl. Show her a picture of kittens or something. Mm-hmm. And that line is actually the very same sentence spoken by a bunch of gangsters in the second issue of the Boys comic book series, just before the female, a.k.a. Kimiko, killed them.
Wow!
So that was a nice little nod to the second issue of the Boys.
A fun Easter egg for the
Exactly. That one was for that was a nice Easter egg for the fans, and no child abuse, not to be seen anywhere. So, all right. So I just thought I'd mention that. All right. 4 topics today. Lots to talk about in this one. Mm-hmm. Once again, these episodes are just jam-packed with plot, which is great. Topic number 1. Let's talk about Butcher. And fresh off of his meeting up with his wife and her son, he gets into a little adventure here while he tries to go take a little time out with his Aunt Judy and to go see his dog Terror. So let's talk about Butcher, Aunt Judy, and Terror. But then we also have to talk about Mother's Milk and Huey, who show up unexpectedly. And then we can also throw in Black Noir, who also shows up unexpectedly. And wacky boys chaos ensues.
Of course. What else?
So what did you make of this storyline, Nick?
Well, I was actually really curious to see where Butcher would go from here, because he had seemingly severed ties with the boys, because we get that phone call between Huey and Billy, and Huey's like, "You didn't even say goodbye. Where are you?" And apparently Huey's been calling him quite a few times, because he says, "I expected it to go to voicemail." I was like, "That's why you called me like 5 times." But yeah, and you do wonder, what is Butcher's move going forward? Because we don't know, naturally, and there's no indication of where Billy will go after this, because like you said, he's kind of not really been rejected by Becca, but she simply did not want to come along, understandably, after what he said about Ryan. I can't blame him.
Right.
And so, off we go and we meet Aunt Judy. I'm actually, I have to.
Do you think? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Did you think Butcher was just regrouping at this point? Do you think he didn't have a plan going forward?
I think he wanted to lay low, if you will, and you said gather his thoughts and go to something that he was familiar with, because who wouldn't love Terra?
Right.
They seem super menacing, but apparently bulldogs are amongst the most docile dogs you could ever find. Apparently they're great with kids. They're very, very sweet. They're apparently very lazy, which is probably why they are so docile.
And they drool a lot.
They drool a lot.
And that's something, just a little side note on Terror. The Boys comic book series, Terror is a much more of a major part of the Boys comic book series, because Terror follows Butcher around everywhere on their adventures with the Boys. Okay. But apparently Eric Kripke, the showrunner, and his creative team decided, well, we don't need the added complication of dealing with animals on top of all the other craziness going on in the show. So they wrote Terror out. And it bothers me, because Terror is such a vital part of Butcher's character, his persona, that, in a lot of ways, Terror is Butcher's closest friend, I think.
Okay, so would you say he's almost, so he's more of his friend, because you wouldn't say he's almost like his Linus blanket, if you will, that he can't live without him, if you will.
Yeah, not a security blanket. More, it's just, it's his loyal companion. Okay. That, the Lone Ranger had his psychic, his horse Silver, or, sure. What have you, or Shaggy had Scooby-Doo, but Butcher has Terror. And right. It was a running gag in the comics where Butcher would have Terror go like, "Terror, F this guy," or whatever, and then Terror would go over there and do what Terror does to that toy pig that Butcher brings him in this episode.
Okay, no, but you know what? As much as I would have loved to have seen more of Terror,
yes,
I can see from a writing standpoint why it would have been complicated. I mean, can you see, you have to deal with a dog when you're crushing through a giant whale, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you're on the run and you have a dog which is not necessarily the fastest. So either you have Butcher kind of hugging him, going, "Gotta go," kind of thing,
Yeah, picking him up and scooting him out. Yeah, exactly. So I think you're right. I think the practicality of it was paramount in the decision making of taking Terror out. But to Kripke's credit, though, at long last, we finally get to have Butcher spending time with, even if it's just for an episode, we get to see Butcher with Terror. And you kind of get a taste of what that would have been like had they done that for the show.
And we understand, and I think in this one episode, we get how much Terror means to Butcher. Because the first thing he says as soon as he walks in the door and sees Judy's like, "Where's my boy?"
Mm-hmm.
So it tells you how much Terror means to him. And even when the house is under siege, he immediately worries about Tara's safety. So I think, and also that's also a credit to Karl Urban's acting as well, because he is able to portray how much this dog that we've never seen means to him.
Yeah, and I think I've talked about this before in the comics, that Becca was dead in the comics. So as far as Butcher is concerned, Terror was the only thing he had.
Right.
And so that's all he really seemed to care about was Terror.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough.
Well, they're even more so, because if you have Becca out of the picture, it stands to reason that he would hold on even more so to Terra. But yes, it was just. I love that dog. Believe you me, as I said, if
he's a scene stealer, if nothing else.
Yes, if I didn't have a cat, I probably would actually buy a bulldog, because they're just so cute. For some reason, they just give me I don't know. They seem very cuddly.
They're kind of ugly cute. Yeah.
That's right. Yes, but I know that Celine would not appreciate it if a dog came into the house.
Oh, really?
She'd probably hiss at him all day. Yes.
Yeah. So you couldn't see those two coexisting.
No,
well.
Celine does not play well with others.
All right. Well, I can, with my cat Keiko, she's the exact same way. She's very territorial, and even if it was a bulldog, I'm pretty sure Keiko would F that bulldog up, big time. So my money would be on Keiko. I'm just saying. So. Maybe it's just me being a little, prideful of my cat daughter, I guess.
I did actually have to ask you something, though, Charles.
Sure.
The actress who plays Judy, I have to admit, I didn't go and look, but is she actually British?
That I don't know. But interestingly, though,
yes,
her name is Barbara Gordon.
I was going to say, how cool is that?
Is that amazing or what? So
Batgirl.
Batgirl. Yeah. So the real name of Batgirl or Oracle, take your pick. Barbara Gordon. So the actress's name was Barbara Gordon. I was like, did they do that deliberately? You kind of wonder if the casting director said, "Oh, this is too great to have a woman named Barbara Gordon in this show. We've got to do this," or it was just a complete coincidence.
I was asking that because
either way.
I was asking that because at times her accent seemed rather off at times.
A bit dodgy,
yes,
so to speak.
I didn't buy into it too much. I was like, I actually, I kept saying this up. I have to check to see if she's British or not, and I didn't. Because I was like, this accent seems almost Australian to me, or even from New Zealand. So I wonder whether, as I said, Amazon hires New Zealand and Australian actors or what have you, because she did not sound British at all, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to look her up on IMDb for information, but there's not much here. So, unfortunately, I don't have your answer for you, but it could be, also that maybe she's not used to kind of that Cockney accent either. Maybe she's more posh if she is a UK actress.
It could be.
It's hard. It's hard to say, but to be fair, we've got Karl Urban, who's a New Zealander.
He's a Kiwi, yes.
He's a Kiwi, yeah. So doing a Cockney accent, so from the UK.
So it's like, it's kind of a Kiwi British family.
Yeah, pretty much. Maybe there was a little mixed in there somewhere. I don't know, but it's kind of interesting. So Butcher is taking refuge at Aunt Judy's. I guess that, she tells him that his father's ill and that his parents are flying over to see him, which Butcher is not thrilled about, to say the least.
You have to wonder what the Butcher parents are like.
Yes. And spoilers, we find out, but we're not going to talk about that yet.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So,
and we also get sorry, Charles.
No, you're fine.
I was going to say we also get mention of a younger brother.
Yes, Lenny, as we find out. But apparently he's a bit mysterious in that regard. And we did get a little explanation that Butcher and he, were very close, but pretty different, as it turns out, because Aunt Judy kind of thinks, when Huey and Mother's Milk show up, and Judy kind of thinks it's interesting that Butcher has taken to Huey like Butcher did his brother Lenny.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, well, does Butcher see a surrogate Lenny in Huey, do you think?
I kind of think so, because the way that Judy talks about Lenny, granted, okay, it's not great to say, you remind me of a younger brother because you're skinny and nervous. So I don't know whether that's to be taken as a compliment or not. I think I'd be like, okay, so basically I'm skinny and nervous. Okay, those are great qualities. I'll go with that, I guess.
Could be worse.
But the fact that she talks about the fact that Butcher was constantly defending Lenny when he was being bullied and such, you do kind of get, I guess, the older, kind of stronger brother and the younger, maybe more timid brother relationship between the two. So I can see why. And for all we know, like as you rightfully put, maybe Butcher is looking for a surrogate Lenny because it seems like he really cared about his brother. So that's maybe.
Now, what do you think, that maybe Butcher's not aware that he's doing this? Do you think maybe it's more subconscious?
It could be a bit of both, because the way she talks about Lenny, it seems like obviously Lenny is no longer around or is dead or what have you. And it could be that's why Butcher is keeping Huey at arm's length, if you will, because he doesn't want Huey to meet the same fate, because he feels...
Or he doesn't want to be hurt again, like with whatever happened with Lenny.
That could also be. I think it could be a bit of both. It could go both ways, but I think it's maybe Butcher trying to shield himself and at the same time trying to unwillingly possibly shield Huey from meeting the same fate.
And what I liked about these revelations is that it's adding layers to Butcher.
It does,
and it also is adding layers to the dynamic between Butcher and Huey, which I've talked about is something that we need to obviously pay attention to.
Exactly.
And it is such a key element, a key component of the long-term storytelling here.
Yeah, because in the long run, it will pay off, listeners. Believe you us.
Trust me on this. Trust me. See, I've got the trade paperbacks.
The man
I know what
knows
I'm talking about.
Stuff.
I got it right here. So trust me. So it's not too long before the Butcher, I believe, notices Black Noir crawling around on a neighbor's rooftop, realizing that they're being surveilled. Yeah. And they know they've got to do something, and they got to do it quickly. So they end up taking refuge in what I thought was very funny. They go down to Aunt Judy's taffy room. And it's not where she makes taffy candy. I'll just put it there. So, no, what we find out is apparently Aunt Judy has a nice little drug business going on the side.
She's the mother superior of the situation, to quote Trainspotting.
I need to see that movie. I haven't watched it in entirety. I've only seen pieces of it.
Ooh, okay.
But I'm pretty sure I would love.
I know. I haven't spoiled it for you that way. But what I'm going to say, Charles, which is not too much of a spoil, is Mother Superior is the name of a character that's given to the guy who pretty much runs the drug den.
Okay. Yeah. No. Like I said, I need to watch this movie. So even if you spoil it for me, I will still need to watch it, because what I saw was interesting. I just haven't. It's hard. It's not on a lot of places.
Plus, if you like Ewan McGregor, you have to watch it.
Yeah, exactly. Because that was the movie that gave him his big break.
That was Ewan McGregor's break.
Because I think it was his performance in that got him the Star Wars: The Phantom Menace gig.
Yeah, he became Obi-Wan Kenobi after becoming a heroin addict, from a heroin addict to Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, that's a natural transition.
Of course.
I think that works, right? So yeah, everybody hides out in the taffy room, a locked, protected room, and Black Noir breaks in, throws some gas into the basement. They go out a side door, but Butcher stays behind to fend off Black Noir to allow everybody to escape. So he takes one for the team in this regard.
Very selfless, I will say.
And what did you make of their throwdown?
Well, because obviously, if you watch this for the first time, you think to yourself, Butcher does not have a snowball's chance in hell against this guy. Because we've had a taste of how powerful and threatening Black Noir is. I think he's second only possibly to Homelander. He might actually almost even be superior to Homelander if given the chance to be tested, because he seemingly has no weaknesses and he's a ruthless killer. I mean, he literally doesn't talk and doesn't ask any questions. He'll just do it.
Yes.
And so you think to yourself...
He doesn't have Homelander's ego.
Because, I mean, the man is just like, boom, just will do it. But obviously... you feel the tension, but naturally, I suppose, from an educated standpoint, you think to yourself, they're not going to kill off Butcher. I mean, I hate to break it to you folks, but I don't. This is not Game of Thrones, so Butcher's not going to die. I mean, but you
not yet.
Not yet. Oops. But no, right then and there, you feel this is one of the main characters. They're not going to throw him away in this situation. But you, at the same time, though, you still feel the tension, you feel the threat, and you have to hand it to how cavalier Butcher is. But then again, he is cavalier in everything he does.
Yeah, that's his personality, and that's what makes him, in a lot of ways, he's that likable rogue.
That's right.
In the kind of Han Solo sense, where he's very quippy, but a bit of a tough guy, but he also fails at times.
Yeah.
So he's not a perfect hero.
But he's
a fallible hero.
Fallible yes, for sure. But you do think to yourself, why he would only do this if he had an ace in the hole, which we realize he actually does have an ace in the hole, which is then of course revealed when he's put up against the wall and about to be basically strangled, and he tells, of course, the president of Vought that, hey, I got
who's
pictures.
Listening in. Yeah. Because Butcher's smart. He knows that Stan Edgar is listening in, and he's like, well, if Black Noir doesn't back off, I'm going to release the photos of Becca and Homelander's son to Ronan Farrow, who's an American journalist that's been known to doing exposés here in the United States and abroad.
I actually got that reference for once.
Yeah, you're like Captain America. You understood that reference.
I did. And also I have to say it was. I mean, and I say this with the greatest respect. It was a little bit weird.
Son of Mia Farrow, by the way.
Yeah, I figured as much. I was okay, it's famous family. But I say this with the greatest respect. It was a little bit weird seeing Black Noir picking up the phone.
Right.
So, what's he going to say?
Yeah, he's not exactly Chatty Cathy, is he?
he's definitely not Mr. Blabbermouth, so I don't see him. And so he picks up the phone, he's like, okay.
See, that's what I think is fascinating about Black Noir, because he's as dangerous as Homelander, but because he doesn't have Homelander's ego and his arrogance, that makes him more dangerous, I think.
In the comics, is he also mute?
Yes. I mean, by choice, I think.
Oh, he decides not to speak. Okay.
He decides not to speak. He's the strong, silent type.
Aha, nice.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And I'm not going to tell more because there is a big revelation with Black Noir.
Sure.
So I'm not going to spoil that because it's kind of important. And that hopefully the show will reveal that in a similar fashion if they don't change it.
But yeah, I did think it was maybe almost done for almost comical purposes when he picks up the phone, because he's only going to be listening. He ain't going to be talking.
He should go pick it up. What's up? Yeah.
Well, you know what? It's Black Noir because you don't hear anything back. He picked up the phone.
Yeah, exactly. Silence, right? He's like, oh, hey.
How you doing? All good?
How you doing, man? Yeah, exactly. So Stan Edgar agrees. He says, okay, as long as you don't release these photos, I'm going to call him off. And so Black Noir takes off. Everybody's saved. And then when Butcher gets asked if those photos are real, that was a real thing, Butcher just kind of does the knowing smile, right?
That's
and you have to think,
and if
you think he just totally BS'd that. his way out of that.
In fact, because that's the smile that we get in tons of previous other episodes where it's like yeah, he's BSing you.
Totally. But I thought that was good. All right. Anything else about Butcher? I mean, he does say goodbye and everything, but and then that's when he gives Terror his little toy pig that Butcher picked up for him.
Oh no, it was a toy Homelander.
Was it a toy Homelander? I thought it was a toy pig.
No, the toy pig was his original girlfriend.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. So now Terror has a new girlfriend. Yes,
because he actually gave him the toy. Oh, because of course he gives him the squeaky Homelander toy.
That's it. Yeah.
Which is perfect in Butcher's
Terror. F it.
Yeah. I mean that's perfect in his for Butcher to give him Homelander. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So he can just keep him warm at night. Just thinking of his dog Terror, putting it to Homelander in his own inimitable fashion. Right.
That's right. Happy humping.
Exactly. So it must be hump day, right? Wednesday. Yes. Yeah. Every Wednesday, you'll just think about it. All right. Topic number 2. Let's talk about Frenchie. Mm-hmm. Who's following Kimiko around. So we'll talk about Kimiko, and then we need to talk about Cherie as well, because we find out that apparently Kimiko is doing something on the side for Cherie. Mm. So what did you make of this subplot to the episode?
I would say one of the themes of this episode is actually venting your anger through violent acts, and we will see this later in our I believe last topic, Charles. But before we actually get to that, or should we say, venting your frustration through violence, and I think that is what Cherie is giving to Kimiko. Because she almost says, you can't kill Stormfront, so I'm going to give you something to where you can vent your frustration, i.e. terrorists or, potential spies or what have you. So I don't think it's possibly the best choice for Kimiko to kind of have her back in the field and being, violent and what have you. But I understand that she has this pent-up rage because obviously her... what she wants to get at Stormfront at all costs, but both Cherie and Frenchie know that she'd be basically marching to her death if she just openly challenged Stormfront at this point. Yes.
Right.
And so I guess she wants to.
But you have to admit, it would be a very interesting confrontation.
It would. It would very much so. Hopefully, we'll get it.
Yeah, fingers crossed, right?
Yes, but I guess she's kind of like, I need to give this girl something to take her frustrations out on. So rather than it be innocent bystanders, let's give it to people who actually deserve it. So you get your stereotypical mobsters, because obviously they're wearing the what is the jump?
The tracksuits. Tracksuits. Yeah, so if you're a fan of the Hawkeye comic book series,
yes, that's where I went to. Thank you.
The Tracksuit Mafia,
yes,
from the Hawkeye comic book series by Matt Fraction and David Asia.
That's right.
Which I'm hoping is going to be the basis for the Hawkeye TV series.
That's exactly where I went to, Charles. Thank you.
Because that's what it needs to be. But that's a whole different discussion.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are very much the Russian tracksuit mafia guys.
Yes.
Like you expect them to like be talking like, bro, we must go kill whomever, bro, back and forth.
Or they could have been extras from Jersey Shore and been the Italian mafia.
Yeah, but
you're my baby, I'm over here, kind of thing.
Yeah. But maybe that would feel a little too Sopranos, I guess. I don't know. But so anyway, Frenchie's following Kimiko around, and Kimiko shows up at this place. I'm trying to remember where she goes.
She goes inside. I think
it's like a bar or something. A bar.
You know what, Charles? It's terrible. Maybe COVID influenced the way I was watching. It's like, oh wow, they're social distancing. How thoughtful of them.
How progressive, right?
Yes.
Yeah. How aware, right? But yeah. So Kimiko shows up there. The Russian guys, the tracksuit mafia guys, are not impressed. They kind of try to be dismissive, like I talked about that line about, like, she's just a girl. They're like, go show her pictures of kittens, bro. And Kimiko proceeds to like destroys one's knee, and then rips another guy's face clean off of his body.
It's pretty hardcore.
A pretty hardcore, but totally boys-like way to do it.
And you know what, actually, Charles,
Yes.
When I actually showed,
like she was peeling off some cellophane off of a CD.
Yeah,
she rips it right off.
Since she doesn't mind the gore in her line of work, I actually showed this scene to Sonia, who speaks fluent Russian, obviously. And I asked her, "Is that real Russian? And do they sound Russian?" Like, "Yep, that Russian is correct." I'm like, "Cool." So not just randomly saying stuff like Chaplin did in The Great Dictator when it came to German.
Like gibberish.
Yeah. She's like, no, she said, that's actually proper Russian. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm glad that, because I obviously have to follow the subtitles because I don't speak Russian. So yes.
Neither do I, so.
So she confirmed that's actually real Russian. But yeah, it was so brutal and just rips the guy's face off. I said, this is Mortal Kombat all over again. Finish him, Flav.
This is more face-off than a Nicolas Cage movie.
That's right. But is it terrible to say that I was kind of relishing the moments that Kimiko went in for the kill? I was kind of like putting my fingers together. I was steepling my hands together going, this is going to be interesting.
Excellent. Yeah. Like Mr. Burns on The Simpsons.
Yes.
Excellent.
I just wished I had my cat in my lap at the moment so I could kind of stroke it like a Bond villain while watching it.
So, Kimiko. Yes, no. No, that's funny. All right. And by the way, Zan, that Simpsons reference was for you.
Yes.
So there you go. Hope you're listening. So Frenchie's watching all this from afar. He's horrified by this, that Kimiko is going out doing this. Yeah. So he follows her where she goes afterward. She ends up going to a church where Kimiko meets up with none other than Frenchie's, like occasional
friend with benefits, shall we say?
Friend with benefits. That's a perfect phrase. Thank you. Yeah, Frenchie's friend with benefits, Cherie. And we find out, as you mentioned, that Cherie has been essentially like acting as an intermediary. We find out that apparently the Albanians paid her to pay Kimiko to get rid of the Russian guys for them. So essentially she's a contract killer at this point. And Frenchie is just pissed off beyond belief about this because he knows that she's hurting. She's coming off, she's obviously coming out of watching her brother die after finally getting reunited with him. And he feels that Cherie is taking advantage of
her rage.
Kimiko, of her rage and also her ability because, well, hey, he probably figures, well, I know Cherie. She's just doing this to make some money off of it.
Yeah, because she makes 10% apparently off of this.
Yeah, well, like any agent would,
yes.
Right? That's an agent's fee, 10%.
Correct.
So if you're acting as an agent for a contract killer, that's probably what you would get, presumably. And you get that little 10% off the top. And not that I have any experience in this field. Keep in mind, okay? I'm just putting that out. Or do I? Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, exactly. Hold on, now I gotta do this. Hold on. You maybe come on, you. There it is. Where is it here? Okay, that's enough of that.
I mean, come on, an Italian and a Russian and an Irishman. Let's talk about that. You know what I'm saying?
They walk into a bar. No, it sounds like an opening to a joke. Exactly. It's an opening to a joke, right?
That's what I'm saying. An Italian and an Irishman. I mean, I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah. And an Asian hit woman walks into a bar. Yeah. And then the Asian hit woman rips the Russian's face off, and there we go. So Frenchie's just trying to, drag Kimiko out of there, says, look, I know you're trying to get over your brother's death, but this isn't the way. and she's trying to explain to him, but because she hasn't taught him her language, he has no idea what she's saying, so he gets frustrated and just leaves.
Yeah, because he's like, you never taught me and what have you. And of course, we have the gift of subtitles, and so we know that she's basically saying that she doesn't need Frenchie, and that and just explaining that obviously that what Stormfront did, and she saw her brother being killed in front of her eyes, and so on. So, yeah, I feel really bad for Frenchie, Charles. I really do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's coming at it from a good place because he is concerned about her.
Yeah.
He cares about her, and obviously feels that, well, hey, maybe killing Russian guys isn't exactly the best way to get over your grief. It's not healthy.
He probably doesn't want her to go back, just to spiral into the life that she led before they met her.
Yeah, right.
Because he's like, I was kind of getting her back into a happy place. It's almost who we say, like the recovering alcoholic,
Yes.
They were drinking
That's a great analogy, by the way.
Well, thank you. But yeah, it's kind of like, as I said, they've stopped drinking and then they're back to their old habits, and they almost have a taste for it. And I think he's afraid that Kimiko once again developed a taste for killing, and that will be all she knows, if you will, that helps her vent her frustration.
Yeah, and I think he's also angry at Cherie for taking advantage of that.
Yeah.
And using it for her own gain.
Do you think that Cherie is doing this purely for personal gain, or do you think she actually has Kimiko's, problems at heart?
I would be inclined to think that she's doing it out of personal gain because she doesn't really know Kimiko.
Right.
She has no attachment to her.
Yeah.
So she figures, well, hey, I can make money just arranging this hit. So,
which is a little bit hypocritical on her part, because in the previous episode we'd seen her and Frenchie have a talk about it. Let her be her own person, stay in your lane, don't mollycoddle her. It is a little bit hypocritical.
Yeah, what do you think? I'm kind of curious, because do you think that Cherie is just like doing this to give Kimiko an outlet for her rage?
It could go both ways, because going back to the conversation that she had with Frenchie, and I want to think that it was genuine, saying you can't save everybody. As I said, stay in your lane. Let's Kimiko be her own person. So it could be, it's like maybe she sees it as a win-win situation, i.e., Kimiko gets to vent her frustration, and I actually am able to make an extra buck out of it as well. So she maybe sees it. She could maybe be seeing it as it benefits both of us, if you will.
I'm not sure, because it's a very interesting question, because we don't really know that much about Cherie as a character.
This is true.
But what we've seen of her to this point, the vibe I got that essentially she was the brains of her and Frenchie's operation.
That's right.
So the way I see her is she's bad news. And Frenchie probably knows this. And so maybe he feels that Cherie, Kimiko working with Cherie is also bad news. And he's concerned about her knowing what Cherie is really like.
True, because you make the point that Cherie does not know Kimiko personally. She only knows of Kimiko through Frenchie.
And I'm sorry to be spending so much time on this, but I just thought it's just something that kind of piqued my curiosity at this moment in time during the conversation. It's one of those things that come up spontaneously, which is, hey, why we talk about this stuff,
folks?
Right?
This is not scripted.
I think they've probably guessed, considering how badly I run things. But
no, stop it, Charles. But yes, I mean, I did not want to open that huge can of worms, but it just got me thinking. After all, it is a review of an episode. We don't just kind of blithely just run through the reviewing.
No,
we're
doing a deep dive, so yeah, why not?
These are kind of conversations that folks might have, after watching the episode, saying, "Is she just hypocritical and just out for herself?" That's why what I love about The Boys is there's always more than meets the eye. That's why I think to myself that Cherie might not.
No, that's Transformers, by the way. Transformers are what's more than meets the eye. Yes. Transformers, more than meets the eye.
That's right, yes. Monsters in disguise, yes, indeed. But I don't know. I guess there's just maybe more to all these characters. So that's why I just wondered is maybe it's just a win-win situation, as in I can make an extra bob, and at the same time, Kimiko gets to take out her frustration on bad guys.
Now I kind of want to watch that scene again just to kind of scrutinize it a little closer, I guess. All right, let's move on. Unless you had anything else about these characters.
I'm good.
All right, so topic number 3. Let's talk about some of our 7 and possibly former 7 members here. So let's talk about the Deep, Queen Maeve, who forms a very interesting alliance with the Deep, and let's talk about A-Train, because as we're told in this episode, it may be the dawn of the 7, but it's sunset on A-Train.
Yeah.
So, what do you want to talk about first?
Well, I would actually, as I said, we can kind of piece them together as we go along. When it comes to Maeve, I constantly feel bad for this character because I remember the time when I'd actually seen this episode the first time, and we see them on the film set because obviously they're filming the 7 movie.
The Dawn of the Seven. Yeah. So essentially, like the parody of Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice.
That's right, and we actually get that episode where that moment where Maeve is outing herself as being a homosexual. During the movie, she's like, "Oh, we have something in common. We're both gay," kind of thing.
Right.
And
it's very blatant and pretty much a sellout as far as Maeve is concerned. Yeah. And by the way, did you catch the bit about that there was a Joss rewrite?
Yeah, of course.
A reference to Joss Whedon. Yeah.
Yeah, because
obviously a little dig on Joss Whedon taking over Justice League from Zack Snyder.
That's right. Yeah, because as you had actually rightfully mentioned in the previous episode, this is basically a Justice League spoof, or Batman versus Superman. But I think it's more of a Justice League. But yeah,
I think you're right. Yeah.
And Maeve is just so frustrated at this point. I think she's driven to the point of desperation because of the fact that obviously they bring in her girlfriend. And then, these creatives, which my father has tons of problems with creatives when it comes to commercials, but I'm not going to get into what my dad thinks of commercials and the so-called creatives. But here you get an example of what creative...
The marketing suits.
The marketing suits, exactly. It's like, because of course, every lesbian couple has a more butch character and a more female one. Of course.
It's more accepting. Yeah, we get that in this episode where they kind of compare it to Ellen DeGeneres and Portia de Rossi.
Yes.
People are more accepting of couples where it's more gender specified of homosexual couples as long as the gender roles are clear cut.
That's right, because who is the man and who is the woman.
Yeah, so they want Elena to be more butch than she is.
Yeah.
Against Maeve's, perceived femininity.
Yeah, which I was just shaking my head throughout the whole thing, and I
could totally see that happening. By the way, True. I could totally see that. Unfortunately, with Hollywood types.
Yes. That is Hollywood for you in a nutshell. But yeah, and just like Elena felt, I would have also just gotten up and walked away had I felt that. But we do see that Maeve is doing this to save, to keep Elena safe. That's what she runs out.
She runs after her, and eventually she kind of sits there for a moment, but then she goes after her.
Yeah, because she's like, I'm doing this to keep you safe.
Yeah, and then look, you don't get it. Like, I got it. We have to do this, otherwise Homelander's going to come after you.
Yeah,
and I don't want to see you hurt.
And it shows you what a childish bully as well Homelander is, because Maeve actually looks at Homelander and says, "Why are you doing this?" And he doesn't really give her a clear answer. He just kind of dances around and says, you're supposed to be free. You're supposed to enjoy. You're in love. Enjoy it.
Well, she talked to him. She goes, well, okay, so what if I just broke up with Elena? Would you back off then? Yeah. Back off her and leave her alone? And he's just like, no, I'd love seeing two lesbians in love together. And the vibe you get is that, well, yeah, he wants to keep them together because that way he can exert control over Mev and Elena.
Yeah, because he obviously enjoys.
He can use Elena as that bargaining chip, that way to threaten Maeve and keep her in line.
Not to mention, I think he does find joy in almost torturing her, if you will. Because almost seeing her squirm, he likes that. The
sadism, yes.
So that was.
He's a bit of a sadist, yes.
Yeah, because we actually get that moment of once they wrap up the scene, Maeve talks to Homelander and is like, why are you doing this? Back off and she's just kind of trying to keep it. She's keeping it together because of Elena's sake. But you feel so bad for Maeve, and this brings us neatly to her wanting to team up with the Deep because she goes to the church.
So in the most so that's a great segue, by the way. So in the most unexpected alliance in this so far, I think we have Maeve going to the Deep, a former team member, and telling him, look, because she knows that the Deep wants to get back in with the Seven.
Yeah.
But he's got an image problem that's keeping him from that because of his treatment of women.
Yeah.
So Miv makes him an offer. She goes, look, I'll be the person that makes you look good to the public if, I'll tell everybody you're not a complete piece of crap, but I want you in the Seven, and I want you to help me.
Yeah.
So essentially, she wants people she can trust to help her deal with Homelander. She's plotting something.
Yeah,
and she realizes she needs allies to pull this off.
That's right, and we of course there see the Deep at this should we say book signing event or book giving away event, if you will, because we see
yeah. It's almost like it's set up like a soup kitchen where people come in, like they come looking for food. It's like they come in looking for food and like, oh nope, here's a book for
your soul.
For the church. Yeah, exactly. It's food for your soul, and it's like, no, I'd rather have food, thanks. But
yeah, I love the old lady who's like, I thought there'd be food.
Yeah, exactly. So, I thought that was good.
Yeah. And that commercial with the Deep is hilarious.
It is. Yeah, it was. That was pretty good. So I thought that was funny. So, but it's interesting to see Mev finally making some moves here.
Yeah, and this has all been...
and we'll have to see how it pays off.
Yeah, because this has all been building up in the previous episodes between the exchange that we had with Maeve and Elena in the hospital to this, because it all stems from that horrendous airplane situation. I think that obviously that is the straw that broke the camel's back for Maeve.
Well, and to be fair, that was a pretty big one.
I can't blame her. I mean,
because she felt helpless, and it's like, look, as horrible of a person I am, I'm not that horrible, but apparently Homelander is, and Homelander exerted his power over her, and consequently she now feels guilty about what happened, as she should.
And rightfully she feels that Homelander should get his comeuppance.
Right.
Well, he should pay for his sins, if you will.
Yep. So we have another revenge story. Yeah, exactly.
Indeed.
So yeah, there's a lot of these so you kind of have to keep your eye on the board here because there's a lot of chess moves going on.
Mm-hmm.
This is very much 3D chess being played here. So keep an eye on the players.
Yeah. My mind kind of went to the Hunters TV show, another great TV show where the opening to that show is figures on a chessboard.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of went to that. And folks, if you like good, should we say, revenge stories, and you like to see Nazis get their comeuppance, check out The Hunters. It's a fantastic.
Yeah, you told me you've recommended that. And that's one of the things I need to sit down and watch. If I can never find the time, I'm too busy listening. I'm too busy listening to Nick's podcast, apparently. So one of them's got to give, Nick. One of them. But the Knicks podcasts are great, by the way. And we'll talk more about those here later.
Thank you. Thank
everybody
you
should listen. Everybody should listen to Knicks podcast. Seriously.
Merci. Thank you. But yeah, it's interesting and I did also love the exchange between the Deep and Maeve. She's like, so you think I'm a piece of crap? F yes. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, duh.
I hope so. It's like, okay.
But I can use you, so like we can help each other out here.
Kudos to the actors, because the timing is just so good in this.
It is, yeah. And obviously, Maeve is, she's been boxed into a corner here.
Yeah.
So she's got to do something, because right now the situation as it is can't stand. Something's got to give. She's got to do something.
Not to mention, she's seeing that Homelander's popularity is dwindling, which we of course will get to in our next segment. But
exactly. But yeah, maybe she sees a moment of vulnerability here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe wants to exploit that. Someone else who's making some moves, but or rather having moves made against him in this episode, A-Train. The ever delightful A-Train. So A-Train, I have to keep in mind, this is just after Homelander has kicked him to the curb.
Yeah.
Or told him he's out or something.
Yes, he's like, we're going in a different direction.
A different direction, yeah. So essentially what's happening here is that A-Train is being told, well, we're gonna write you out of the 7 movie at the end so that you won't be in any future movies because you're going to be leaving the 7.
You're going to give like a big epic speech to where you're going to leave and get people in tears that you're leaving.
Yeah. Now, A-Train doesn't, he wants to change the script for the movie so that his departure is a little less clear and more open-ended, i.e., well, maybe I'll come back someday to the 7.
Yeah, it's like,
so therefore, this is not we don't want it to be definitive that he's leaving.
Yeah, I love the fact that when he talks to the director, he's like, let's just do like a series of looks and people can make up their own narrative if they will, or if they want to, rather than me saying openly, I'm out of here. I love that kind of talk between A-Train, the actor, and this director. It's like, no, we're not going to do that.
So while he's watching the Deep's commercial on a tablet, Stormfront comes over in a rather awkward moment, tells him, oh, but hey, I used to be a member of that church, but, back when it was a pure place, before they started letting all those kinds of people in, unquote.
Yeah, because here my question goes to you, Charles, is,
yes.
Do you think that A-Train at this point is on to Stormfront as in, I can smell a racist?
Well, he'd be a fool not to at this point, right? Okay. Especially after a comment like that.
Yeah, because I guess he actually at some point asks her, is like, what do you mean by those kind of people?
Exactly. Yeah. What do you mean those people, right?
He's like, oh, garbage.
What people are you talking? Yeah. Because she makes this very clear distinctions. Like there's some people that are great, and there's some people that are garbage. And although she doesn't specify who's who, it's very heavily implied. So it's heavily implied racism here.
One of the few times I was actually on A-Train's side.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And she mocks him about his retirement from the 7. Then Ashley comes in. He basically goes to confront her about his contract. And she lays it out for him, says, look, you can either leave and get severance, or you can get fired and get nothing.
Yeah.
So A-Train thinks this over for a little bit and is like, okay, I guess I'm getting the severance. So he agrees to do the scene with his final farewell.
And I will agree with the director. He does deliver a great performance.
Right. But yeah, apparently, but he's obviously not very happy about it. He's going to be very bitter about it.
Which could lead to other things.
Which could lead to other things. So again, this is something else to keep in mind. Yes. Another player on the board that could definitely upset the game here.
Always be wary of those who are scorned, because they eventually come back at some point in some way, be it on the good side or on the bad side. So it's a lesson of be careful of who you scorn, because it could come to bite you in the butt later on.
Pretty much, when you burn bridges, sometimes those bridges come back to bite you.
Yeah.
Or I think I've kind of mixed up my metaphors there, but you get
it.
The
Works.
It works. Just roll with it. All right. It's one of our podcasts. Just roll with it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Anything else about these three?
It just makes me hate Stormfront more. What can I say? As much as Aya Cash is a fantastic actress, because she really, really is. But it just makes you hate her so much more. And I actually felt that tension between her and A-Train. And I was like, A-Train, you're a horrible person, but right now I'm with you, brother, because she is an awful person. She can judge you for being a bad guy, but she shouldn't judge you for the color of your skin.
Well, I think it's safe to say that we can agree that they're both horrible people.
Yeah.
But on the scale of who's most horrible, I think it's safe to say that Stormfront is more horrible than A-Train.
Exactly. And the Oscar goes to Stormfront.
And the Oscar, exactly. The Oscar for most garbage human being goes to Stormfront. Yeah, hold on, I gotta do this. Yeah, there we go. All right. So, all right. Topic number 4. Speaking of Stormfront, let's talk about Stormfront, but also talk about Starlight, who has a nice little run-in with Stormfront a couple times. And also Homelander, because, hey, we can't go through a boys' discussion without talking Homelander.
Yes.
So we have, at the beginning of this, we have Homelander being taken aside by Ashley Barrett after some video comes out of him going to this African village, killing a tribal leader that's superpowered, and devastating the place with his laser vision or whatever, and also killing a nearby bystander in the process. And there's video that has come out of the bystander's wife crying over her husband's dead body. Now, Homelander could care less.
Of course.
Just water off of his back, just like nothing. But Barrett points out that, oh, hey, you know what? You're down 9.5 points in your ratings, and there's footage of people at the 7 Tower protesting and declaring you a war criminal. Yeah. So not the best look right now.
No.
So it's a little bit of a PR nightmare for Homelander. So what did you make of his PR dilemma here?
Well, I have to say there was a smile of satisfaction playing across my face when I watched this, because I'm like, you're going down, buddy, and I'm enjoying this. Because finally, his sins are catching up with him, and it goes to show you that even, gods, if you will, are not unaccountable for what they do. And so it made me extremely pleased. I was very satisfied. As I said, it was just this, maybe I should not take, gloat when it comes to other people in bad situations. But here I was gloating, and I was proud of gloating. But yeah, I just thought to myself, yeah, they're fine. He's showing his true colors. The world is starting to see him for what he is. And I just hope they drag him down, to the darkest depths, because he deserves no less.
So you're saying there's a little bit of a schadenfreude here, where you're taking pleasure in watching Homelander squirm.
Yes.
A little bit. Yeah.
Which is a horrible thing to do, folks. Don't do it. I mean, but I can't help it. What can I say? I'm only human. So,
you can totally do it. No, but I'm a big supporter of it. No,
but no. So you just think to yourself, obviously, he's not going to end up, totally disgraced. Yeah. What's he going to do? Because we know that Stormfront has an agenda, and she's hoping it's like eventually he'll come crawling back to me, and I will, I'll use him for my own purposes, because she keeps saying to him, my door's always open if you want to talk to me, because she's like, you're not doing a particular great job. And he's like, I don't need anybody. Who needs you? I can do this by myself. Points are going down, points are going down. And he has that moment where he's in that tunnel where he's just looking and laughing hysterically to himself. And
also crying
yeah,
too.
He goes through all the motions.
He's running through the whole gamut of emotions here.
Mm-hmm. It just blows my mind. And, I mean, once again, I have to hand it to the acting here.
Antony Starr is just amazing.
Antony Starr is fantastic in this, because he just plays all those emotions in one take. Assumingly, it seems like it's all one take. And he
really deserves an Emmy nod.
The man really does. The man certainly does. And I hope that the big wigs in other places have him under their radar, because I'd be very curious to see what he does going forward from The Boys, because the man has acting chops. So you do wonder what he could do from here on.
He's just such a great villain.
He is, and of course we get what we get. Of course, he comes crawling back to her trailer saying,
to Stormfront. Yeah, exactly.
I need help. And that's the thing. When it comes to... Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, she agrees to make some memes for him to get some of his popularity back. Yeah. And apparently that works out.
Which seems to be the way in real life, too, I think. It seems like you just need a few memes and everybody's happy. I mean, it might be
it's a very sad thing to state about our society right now. That's all it takes.
I mean, it might be
to get you off the hook.
It might be very simplistic, but I think to a certain degree it is kind of true. I mean, granted, okay, a terrorist is not going to become a saint overnight, but we know how powerful social media is, and if you're able to spin doctor it properly, you can turn a villain into a hero within a matter of weeks or months. It's not going to happen overnight. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's very effective right now. I totally agree. Now, one of the things that was interesting about this episode there's a sequence where Homelander shows up at the rally being held by Congresswoman Victoria Newman.
Yes.
Who's somebody everybody should be paying close attention to, apparently. Mm-hmm. And she's leading a rally against Homelander, and he surprises everybody there, including Newman, by showing up. He talks about innocents get killed in war all the time, and the crowd's not really being well received to it.
They ain't buying it.
No. So in a moment, a very unsettling moment, he gets upset, and all of a sudden you see him lash out with his heat vision, laser vision, whatever you want to call it, and just massacring the crowd of protesters.
Yes.
Now, what did you make? What was your first reaction seeing that for the first time?
At first, I was like, "Wow, you actually did that!" Just seeing the rows of charred bodies.
Yeah.
I just thought to myself, "Crikey, he did it!" And you think to yourself, "Where do you go from here?" Because I don't know what PR move can save you at this point.
No. Especially with the cameras rolling and everything, you're like, this is it. This is the big game changer. But not so much, because as it turns out, it was just a fantasy sequence. Yes. Didn't happen.
It would have made for a very interesting twist had it been reality, Charles. I mean, it would.
But by this point, you could have seen him doing that.
Yes.
That's the.
Because we know also what a ticking time bomb Homelander is, and he is capable of that. We bought into it because we know that Homelander is such a child, and so he will act on instinct.
Yeah, and I think it was the writer, the creator's intention to kind of mislay the audience a little bit, that just have a little fun with them, like, oh my God, he did this. What's going to happen now? And it's like, well, psych. Because we knew at this point you would believe this. You could totally see this happening.
That's right.
And because you're wondering, when is he going to cut loose? So they could kind of play up your expectations and do something that would make a really great trailer moment to get you hooked on watching this show.
And to quote our friend once again, Jesse Jackson, the pacing was spot on here because you had that like one beat pause before we found out it was just him imagining it. So kudos also to the director as well for the just that pause, because it doesn't immediately cut to Homelander kind of just smiling away and saying, "Okay, folks, I'm out of here."
Peace out.
It lingers a little bit, and so I love that we had.
Well, they make you feel it as a result, just by that lingering, and because you kind of need that moment to process everything and really feel the emotions at that point.
Really well directed.
Yeah. So once Stormfront released her trailer after talking with Homelander, Starlight breaks into it and she accesses her tablet. And she comes across a number of emails to a medical center named Sage Grove, which obviously becomes very important.
It will come into play later, folks.
Yeah, and then she turns off the computer because Stormfront comes in. And Starlight tries to immediately cover up for what she just did. Says, look, you had no right to talk to my mom.
Yeah, because in the meantime, Starlight's mom had shown up on set.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Stormfront had kind of chatted her up and get a little cozy. And Starlight, knowing a little bit more of what Stormfront really is, was very nervous about that. Worried about her mother, understandably. So she lays into Stormfront about that. And, there's not going to be peace between us. I don't want that. But Stormfront figures, well, you're just putting on a show here.
Not to mention, she's like, I know what you did last summer.
Right, yeah. Only, I know what you did with Gecko, and you stole a sample of Compound V.
Yeah.
That got leaked to the press. So Starlight, in the meantime, counters and says, well, I'll just, reveal that you're Liberty. And she kind of threatens her with her powers a little bit. But Stormfront, not really impressed by this.
It's like, oh, that's so cute kind of thing. And it's like, but
trolling her.
And we also learned that apparently Stormfront has quite the attachment to her mother, Adele.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And at this point, Homelander comes in, at this very tense moment. And it was like, oh, am I interrupting here? Sorry, ladies. And Stormfront says, like, no, this is just between us girls. And Starlight agrees and then just leaves.
Yeah.
And then here's where things get interesting.
Yes.
So once they're alone, Homelander, asks what was going on. Stormfront says, well, we're just running lines for the movie. And he tells Stormfront, well, hey, looks like I'm up 5 points because of your memes. So I guess I kind of owe you, huh?
And she's like, how do you think about repaying me?
Right.
I'm like, yes, so, I knew this would happen.
So there's a little bit of amour in the air, shall we say. A little romance. Well, sort of, I guess. Because, hey, Stormfront shoves Homelander into a wall and then Max all over him. They throw each other back and forth across the trailer. And then, in a very interesting moment, Stormfront asks Homelander to use his laser vision on her breasts.
Yes, I was like, okay, I guess you're a masochist and that gives you pleasure, I suppose.
Yeah, well, at first he's, even Homelander's kind of taken aback by this, going,
like, what?
Seriously? Like, yeah, what? but Stormfront's like, nope, go for it. And he does
I can
so,
take it.
and she gets off on it. She gets off on the pain.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of masochism there.
So Homelander kind of a little bit turned on at this. She's like, look, Stormfront's telling him, look, I don't break easy, obviously. So Homelander essentially can be as rough with her as he wants.
Mm-hmm.
She can take it. So they basically start knocking boots all the way around the room, even having sex and floating in midair. And that's how the episode ends.
Yeah.
What did you make of that moment? that whole sequence.
Can I say that honestly, I was shaking my head throughout the whole thing, because this was at the time, this wasn't the alliance I'd hoped would happen, because obviously, like I said, he's literally getting in bed with the bad guys. Even more so. I mean, he's not a good person himself, but he's getting in bed with even worse people. Could it almost be an analogy for a certain president getting in bed with white supremacists? I wonder. I hate to do this, folks. I really hate.
So you're saying there was symbolism in this moment?
Mm-hmm. I'm like certain boys who think they might be proud about something, and a certain chap.
Gee whiz, Nick. I don't know. Maybe. Jeepers, Nick.
Exactly. It's like, I was like, oh man. Seriously, they had to tell us what was going on, the current state of affairs in the USA. I'm like, okay, I get it. I get what's going on.
Well, you don't have to take it that way. But
no, I know.
If you did,
of course,
it seemed pretty obvious, but yes.
Because obviously we read it with today's eyes and what is going on, and obviously I guess The Boys is done during that time. It'd be interesting to see, because obviously in the comics that doesn't happen, because Stormfront is a guy, so it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, as we found out, Homelander's not into guys. That's not his jam.
Exactly. Stormfront is not gay, so Homelander's not gay, so it doesn't happen. So that's why it makes me think it was a deliberate choice of symbolism for the current state of affairs in your country, Charles.
Well, the good thing about that scene, all kidding aside.
No, of course.
If you don't want to look at it that way, you don't have to. It could be just very, it was shot in a way that, if you just want to believe, okay, it's Stormfront, a racist being turned on, or using, kind of manipulating Homelander and turning him on toward her, and them making this alliance.
No, of course we're not saying that's the way it is.
No, but my point is that you could look at it that way, or you could look at it with the subtext of the current political climate, and like you said, you could say, well, okay, using Homelander as a kind of like a superpowered version of Donald Trump, that he's getting in bed literally with racist and racism and white supremacists and neo-Nazis, what have you. Yeah. So you could look at it either way, however you want.
It's open to interpretation, of course.
It's open to interpretation, but I do believe, like that subtext exists whether you want to look at it that way or not.
Because also seeing the times it was done in and such, like any TV show or movie that was made during a certain moment that wants to make a statement,
right? It's
pretty clear for the world to see. But like you said, Charles, the viewer can see whatever they want to see. But I have a feeling that if we talk to Mr. Kripke and his entourage, they would probably confirm that is the statement they're making. We're not saying that it is the definitive version, but I think we could make an educated guess and say this is what they're going for.
Well, I think good television shows, the ones that are well written, are always a product of their time periods.
Of course.
You definitely had that with 1960s Star Trek, the Twilight Zone, back in the late 50s and the early 60s.
Our beloved Doctor Who, for example.
Doctor Who, there's been a lot of criticism recently, like, oh, the show's becoming too political. No, the show has always been political. You just haven't been paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, it's just more noticeable now because people are intentionally looking for it and quickly racing to the internet to talk about it.
That's exactly right. And I think writers will always put in their personal feelings into the arts that they create. We're human. It's almost impossible to escape that we will create things according to the way we feel about stuff.
And I think a lot of people are right now with outrage culture going on that, this is just my opinion, that I think a lot of people are looking for that next outrage, something to be outraged about. So they go looking for meaning. Maybe it's not even there, to act all upset about it and decry it and rally other people to their side for likes on Twitter or Facebook.
No, totally. I think it's that, but that is, I think, what is a good piece of film, a good piece of television,
or shares. Yeah.
But I think it's a good example, a good piece of television, a good piece of film, is that you can put in whatever meaning you want to put into it. That you can read it the way you want to. That it might not necessarily have been the writer's intent, but you can, of course, put your own spin on it, if you will. But I think I'm going to openly say I think that you and I probably went there when it came to that. I mean, I think it's safe to say. I mean, I don't want to speak for you, Charles, but I think
that's good. Go ahead.
But I think that's probably what you and I both went to when it came to that moment.
Yeah, I mean, there is. It seems like there's subtext there, but you don't have to read into that if you don't want to. All right, and I know. Keep gunning on that soapbox. It just keeps materializing out of nowhere. But there you go,
folks. We have issues. What can I say? We have problems with the current status quo. What can I say?
Yeah, I know I have issues. I have 18,700 of them. Only they're comic books. But yeah,
nice, bravo.
Thank you. All right. So, if there's anything else, do you have anything else about this episode?
No, I
know we've talked a lot about it.
Indeed we have. As I said, it was just as much as I love the Dream On, I kind of was like, you could have put something more. Welcome to My Nightmare would have been perfect.
Yeah.
When it came to the final scenes, I'm not criticizing the choice of Dream On because it's a fantastic song, and I would actually suggest to folks you check out the wonderful cover version of Dream On done by Ronnie James Dio, with Yngwie Malmsteen on guitar. Check it out. Because if you like Mr. Ronnie James Dio, the late, great Ronnie James Dio, who sadly is no longer with us, check out him singing Dream On, because it's fantastic. And you have, as I said, Mr. Yngwie J. Malmsteen on guitar, and it's fantastic, fantastic cover.
See, maybe I would have just thrown John Williams' Imperial March behind that scene.
That would have worked very well too.
Dun 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 dun. Dun.
When it comes to the master, Williams, you can't go wrong, of course.
Nope, no, of course not. Do you have any favorite quotes for this episode?
I actually had a couple, to be honest. Stormfront's quote is actually very, very poignant. It's like, when you see it on your uncle's Facebook page, then you know it's working. So true.
Right.
And then the exchange between Judy and Huey. Just so you know, that's Tara's girlfriend. And Huey was like, what? His F-pig. And I was like, I love that. And also the exchange between Stormfront and Starlight, where Stormfront says, wow, you're a special kind of poison flower, huh? Going against your own people. And Starlight's like, you mean effing white people? And Stormfront's like, Starlight, superheroes, don't be racist. Seriously.
Right. Yeah, so we have Stormfront, a racist, calling out Starlight for supposed racism.
Yes.
That's rich. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
So there's one. What about you, Charles?
Let's see. Homelander and Ashley, where Homelander says, look at this. Look at those strong female lesbians. I'm inspired. You inspired? Ashley says, oh, yeah. Homelander says, girls get it on. And Ashley says, done. Girls get it done. And Homelander responds to that, they sure do, Ashley.
Yep.
Butcher talking to Huey, where Butcher says, expecting a happy ending, were we? Well, I'm sorry, Huey. It ain't that kind of massage parlor.
Yes. I got the hint. That was a big problem over here in Italy. I will say that.
Yeah. We actually had one of our here in Ohio, we had a congressman or one of our representatives or one of the legislature or something involved with that. over here. Going to one of those...
A so-called massage parlor.
Yes, so-called massage parlor, yeah. Let's see what else. And of course I have to talk about this, where Stormfront saying to Homelander, "Don't be a pussy. Laser my effing tits."
You had to see, Charles. I'm glad you went there.
Yes. which is it's kind of hard to top that line. I'm sorry.
It is.
That's kind of a showstopper right there. All right. What's your rating, sir?
I'm going to give this 8.5 British pit bulls.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. We are in sync, believe it or not. I'm going to give this one 8.5 as well, but I'm going to give it 8.5 skinned faces of Russian mobsters, or AKA tracksuit mafia guys.
Nice.
You guys really should read the Matt Fraction, David Asia Hawkeye series.
Yep.
It's fantastic.
I will definitely second that.
It's a classic. And I really hope they bring that to television.
We can only hope.
That's the Hawkeye TV series I want to watch.
You and me both, Charles.
All right. Speaking of which, just really quickly, because I know we're running really long, Phantom Zone News, just want to quickly mention that WandaVision, we've been talking about it for a few episodes now. At long last, we have a premiere date, you guys. So
Yay.
WandaVision finally, even though we were promised 2020, and then later 2020, and then really later 2020. Well,
to where it's 2021.
Yeah, it's so late into 2020, it's now 2021. So WandaVision is now premiering on January 15th, 2021 on Disney+. So it's going to be 6 episodes by all accounts, and we'll see what happens. But obviously it looks very cool, and I think it's going to be a very interesting show. And hopefully I can coax Nick back onto the Phantom Zone to talk about it.
I'd be only too happy to, Charles.
Well, you're more than invited, sir, because I think that would be a lot of fun, especially after we've talked it up so many episodes now.
We've been milking this thing.
Yeah. It'd be kind of a letdown if we didn't do it, right?
True.
Well, I wonder if hopefully we can get Jesse to talk about it, too. We'll see.
It's open.
If not, at least the two of us will talk about it. How's that? And then also, I just want to quickly mention that if you're not aware, they're doing a spin-off series is being planned on HBO Max for Peacemaker, which is a character that's going to be being featured in the Suicide Squad.
Yep.
Play, the kind of reboot of the Suicide Squad movies franchise that's being helmed by James Gunn from the Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
My man James Gunn, super happy about that.
I'm really looking forward to this because if nothing else, Peter Capaldi, the 12th Doctor, is in it as the Thinker, which is awesome.
Yeah, as Whovians, we're really psyched about this.
I hope he won't get killed off, but it's the Suicide Squad. He probably will.
But hey, it's Peter Capaldi.
It's Peter Capaldi. It's like we get to see Peter Capaldi on the big screen once again. Yes. Very happy about that. But in this case, Peacemaker is going to be a TV spin-off series, presumably a prequel to the Suicide Squad. It's going to be on HBO Max. So John Cena's Peacemaker is going to be starring in this. But they recently also cast an actor named Chris Conrad as the Vigilante.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're an Arrow fan, you may remember the Vigilante on that show.
I do.
But I'm hoping this will be a little more faithful to DC Comics' The Vigilante, the Adrian Chase Vigilante, because I was a big fan of that series back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s.
You and me both, Charles. Here's hoping that this time around they're more faithful. Yeah,
so fingers crossed. But I just thought I'd mention it. So a little bit of news. Now, Phantom Zone fan mail. Of course, we have Dave Proctor writing in.
Yay! Hey, Dave.
So I know we're running long, but we got to read Dave's email because he was so kind to write to us.
Of course we do.
So Dave writes in about We Gotta Go Now, this episode we just discussed, where he says, the opening scene shows New York in rubble similar to the Avengers movie. I wonder if New Yorkers have PTSD from seeing their hometown destroyed so many times in the cinema and on TV.
Yes.
Probably, but, if you've read Marvel Comics, they kind of get destroyed. New York gets destroyed just about every other week. So, But Dave continues, once again, Homelander has no concern for collateral damage. Nope, that's not him.
Nope.
Butcher is out of control and instigated a beating. He comes out of it feeling like crap, but in one piece. Inside, he is wrecked. He has something that he needs. Who hasn't turned to a pet in a time of need? We also learn he's estranged from his parents. So many unhealthy relationships in every direction. He's becoming more human, perhaps.
Good point.
Remind me not to cross Kamiko. I wonder what the Russian group did to lose face. Ooh, I see what you did there, Dave.
Nice.
I caught that, sir. I see what you did there. You can't slip that past me. Apparently, even people who fight superpowered people think of firefighters as heroes. Well, they should, right?
Yes. God bless our firefighters.
Exactly. Marvel Comics certainly thought so, and so did DC back after 9/11, when they released those great tribute specials.
Amen, yeah.
To our great first responders. Apparently, Homelander does have limits. I'm surprised he didn't mow down that crowd like he fantasized. Yeah, I was kind of surprised by that, too. My brain goes to strange places, Dave's brain. How are they... Well, my brain goes to strange places, too, so right there with you, Dave. How are they having explosions on the first floor and the dog not bark? Of course, the dog did bark, but not from the explosions. Also, my dog would have gone and fetched the grenade. Really? I'll never forget the time that I had a tomahawk on a camping trip and threw it at a tree. My dog beat the tomahawk to the tree. The tomahawk bounced back toward me and stuck in the ground. We didn't play with the tomahawk anymore.
Understandably. Now I want a picture of Dave's dog. I want to know what dog he owns.
Maybe tomahawks aren't the best playthings. I'm just saying.
No, exactly. New chew toy. Probably not the best chew toy.
Frisbees or, badminton or volleyball. Maybe try those instead. Just stay away from the tomahawks. Just a little safety tip from those of us here on the Phantom Zone. Yeah. What is the record number of C words dropped in a single episode of a show? It's a good question. Zan and I might try and top that on Drunk Cinema.
Well, I know that the two Kick-Ass
Stay tuned.
The two Kick-Ass movies actually play fast and loose with that word.
Yeah, that's a good... But maybe he's talking TV shows.
Yeah, right? Of course.
Yeah. Liberty revealed. Not really, but Starlight lets it be known that she knows. She knows that Stormfront knows that she knows that Stormfront knows that she knows that Stormfront knows.
Yes.
I sometimes think this is how the world works. It is. People just controlling others with what they know. The whole thing is a house of cards.
Knowledge is power, my friend.
No, that's a completely different TV show. House of Cards. The dog has a new girlfriend. Yes, he does. Terror, by the way. Dog's name is Terror.
And his girlfriend is Homelander.
And his girlfriend is Homelander, exactly. The goodbye to the dog was the most touching. Yeah, it was.
It was very sweet.
I was kind of mad. I was like, Butcher should be taking Terror with him.
Yeah.
Terror should be with Butcher. Aerosmith instead of Billy Joel. Awesome.
We love Aerosmith.
So Dave is a fan of the musical choice. Stormfront and Homelander take a scary step for the world. What would their kid be like? Ooh, that's disturbing.
Yeah.
Probably like Ryan, only more like Homelander.
Yeah, Homelander 2, crikey.
Yeah, the sequel, right? Yeah. Or I shall call him Mini Homelander. Come, Mini Homelander. Let's just go. No.
The laser.
Let's just go laser Stormfront's breasts. All right. Be well, fellas. I'll hear you next week. Well,
thank you, Dave.
Hopefully you hear us sooner than that because we're going to be posting this week. So
yes, indeed.
But come on back next week.
Thank you, Dave. You rock, my friend.
You do rock. And we really appreciate you writing in, Dave, in all seriousness. So if you want to be like Dave, and please do, write to us at phantomzonecast@gmail.com. That's phantomzonecast@gmail.com. Also, you can reach us on Twitter at Phantom Zone Cast on Twitter, Facebook, the Phantom Zone Podcast, or Instagram at Phantom Zone Podcast. So please check us out. Nick, where can they reach you and hear all of your lovely discourse?
Well, thank you very much for that setup there, Charles. When it comes to me, for you country music fans, I do host the Whiskey and Cigarettes show where we play today's country, traditional country, and everything else in between. To find out where to tune in for that, so you can visit our website at whiskeyandcigarettesshow.com. Also, podcast-wise, I do host the Happiness and Darkness podcast where we discuss superhero movies from Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, Image, and more. If you'd like to join us to discuss your favorite superhero movie, you can send us an email. That's happinessanddarknesshow@gmail.com. We are, of course, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And also, I have to mention, naturally, Gold Standard, the Oscars podcast, where with the wonderful Zan Sprouse and Rachel Friend, we do discuss all the Oscar-winning movies from 1927's Wings to the present day. If you'd like to discuss your favorite Best Picture winner, you can send us an email at goldstandardoscars@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook and Twitter. And recently I did join the wonderful Charles Skaggs, who's doing his best to make me laugh, and I love him for doing that because the world needs more laughter. I did recently join him on Titan Talk, the Titans podcast, to discuss the second season of Doom Patrol. And that pretty much sums me up. What about you, Charles?
Well, Nick, first off, I want to apologize because I was totally sabotaging his shameless plug.
I loved it. I can't keep a straight face with this man. What can I say, folks? He's a born comedian.
I was just trying to make him smile. So, all right. So, Nick's a good sport about that. All right. So, yeah, please follow Nick in his endeavors. And as for me, of course, at Charles Skaggs on the Twitter machine, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram. And I love, by the way, I noticed while I was listening to Gold Standard that it's kind of interesting that people are picking up on my, Twitter machine, references or Instagram or,
You're an influencer, Chuck.
Or interwebs. Apparently you guys are using that a lot. So I was just like,
you're an influencer, Charles. What can I say?
I guess so, but hopefully not like in a Stormfront kind of way. That would be bad.
No, you're the good influencer.
I try to be. I try to use my powers for good instead of evil.
And you do. You succeed.
All right. So, like I said, please follow me on Twitter and Instagram there. Also, Facebook, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, and my blog of geeky things.
Damn good coffee and hot.
Damn Good Coffee and Hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on the Phantom Zone podcast, including The Boys, all kinds of comic book sci-fi news of my other podcasts that I do for Southgate Media Group, including, that aforementioned Titan Talk that Nick mentioned, even though it's currently on hiatus, but hopefully we'll be back soon. And then Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast that I do with Jesse Jackson. And assorted special guest companions like a certain DJ Nick, who by all accounts will be joining us once again in a couple days to talk Aliens of London / World War III from the Christopher Eccleston era.
Yes, with the dashing Christopher Eccleston.
So that'll be episode 209 because, Ninth Doctor, right? So everybody please check that out. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to that. It's been a while since Nick's been on the podcast, so I'm looking forward to talking some Doctor Who with him once again. And then, of course, Ghost with the Twin Peaks podcast that I do with Zan Sprouse, where, we talk, of course, everything Twin Peaks, David Lynch, et cetera, and right now we are going to be doing our Criterion Collection review of the Elephant Man release that just came out here a couple of months ago. We did the movie review last time. We're going to be running through the special features later this week as well. So yes, a very busy week for yours truly once again. And then our new, shall we say, adventure, Drunk Cinema. Where Zan Sprouse, once again, and I, we just released our very first episode, Batman 1989, where Zan and I had the pleasure of opening up the Drunk Cinema Theater to sit down, have some adult beverages, and some adult language as we watch Batman 1989. So we kind of do, basically, the premise is very simple. Zan and I watch movies and do movie commentary, and we enjoy adult beverages and talk about stuff, and we end up digressing every so often. and wackiness ensues. And thankfully, Nick was kind enough to listen to our first episode. Hopefully, he enjoyed it.
I certainly endorse this podcast, folks. I mean, if you're looking for a good time, if you have not checked out Ghostwood, check it out. But if you haven't, and you want some great banter, definitely be sure to check out Charles and Zan, because they're just entertainment at the nth degree. So I definitely enjoyed myself.
And we certainly tried, and thank you very much for the compliment. We did the 1989 Batman movie first, obviously starring Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson as the Joker. But for our second episode, we're going to be switching gears just a little bit as we talk Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
And you guys have been quoting that film throughout Ghostwood.
Yes.
I have to be, as a Ghostwood follower, Charles, I am showing my hand here, but as a Ghostwood follower, I know how much you guys reference that film. So it's going to be interesting to see you guys discuss the actual movie.
I came up with a list of about 15 movies we could talk about. Nice. And I ran it through Zan, but this was the one that she wanted to do next. And I can't say I disagree with her, because it's one of my all-time favorite movies. So if you enjoyed our train wreck of a discussion of Batman 1989, I definitely recommend you come back for episode 2 as we talk Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It'd be a lot of fun. Otherwise, next time on the Fandom Zone, episode 196, where we talk The Bloody Doors Off. So it's going to be a lot of fun as we kind of hit the back 5, the final 5 episodes of season 2. And I think it's going to be a great discussion once again.
I'm really
hopefully not as long, though, because I know we're running long.
Well, we tend to digress here and there, Charles, but I'm really looking forward to this and the upcoming episode. And, just thanks so much, for giving me the opportunity to, join you in this crazy ride. Just been loving it all the way through so far.
Well, so have I, obviously, because this discussion kind of got away from us, but I think we had a lot to talk about in this one.
We did.
And hope everybody enjoyed it. So everybody, I won't keep you any longer. Thanks again for listening to the Phantom Zone podcast. And then come on back next week for episode 196, The Bloody Doors Off. It's going to be a lot of fun. DJ Nick, yours truly. I can't say any more than that, right? So come on back. We'll see you next time right here on the Phantom Zone podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Ciao.